What's going on, Packer fans? Happy Sunday. Welcome into this post-game episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Obviously a frustrating game, I think, just because of how it ended. Some of the plays that happened throughout the course of the game, specifically the lateral play. As soon as it happened, and of course the ref blows the whistle and it's a dead ball, everyone can see quite obviously that it's a lateral backwards, that they blew the whistle too early, that it was a clear recovery, probably should have been a touchdown, and immediately tweeted somehow Green Bay is going to get screwed out of this. And the fact that the play stands, like, just unbelievable. Obviously, that changes the entire course of the rest of that game. The blocked extra point was a massive play in that game. Green Bay clearly has the opportunity to go down and tie with a field goal if that extra point gets made. Again, assuming there's no crazy butterfly effect after that point. I thought there were positive takeaways from this one. Jordan Love is going to be evaluated on his ability to come up with big plays in big moments. There were signs of it. Again, I thought Jordan overall had a solid game. One of the things overall, and this is one I'm actually really excited to go and watch the tape on. It felt like there were a handful of players that played really poorly, and then a handful of players that played really well, and some real true signs of progress again. But again, Jordan's going to be evaluated for coming up with big plays and clutch moments, because that's what you need to do as a quarterback. Now, again, it's interesting because if they're down a field goal, it changes the calculus, and maybe he's not forcing to throw a little bit into the end zone on the first one. Obviously, you're kicking a field goal rather than going for the end zone on that last one, and things might look a whole heck of a lot different. So it's tough to judge everything, as has sort of been the case so far this year for Green Bay and specifically for Jordan Love. But you are judged on your ability to kind of rally the team and put your team in a position to succeed. As far as the first interception goes, I know the corner had outside leverage. I know that is a very good corner that's out there on Christian Watson. I go back and watch that play, and people are saying, well, he's double covered. That's a one-on-one throw. The ball got tipped over in the direction of the safety who was late getting over, and it ends up being an interception. It's not double coverage on the play. If you watch when Love first throws that ball, it's an out and up. Porter never bites on the initial pump fake from Jordan, but he has like what I would argue is like maybe a quarter step, maybe like an eighth of a step, but he gets ahead of the corner. And when you've got Christian Watson, who's a fast wide receiver, if he gets ahead even a little, you're thinking that's an opportunity. And he throws it. He doesn't underthrow it. He throws a jump ball to Jordan. And to me, sorry, it wasn't Porter, it was Peterson. But I just think Peterson made a phenomenal play on that ball. Gets a little bit unlucky that it's deflected back and that Keanu Neal's able to make the interception on it. Is it maybe the ideal read and throw in that situation? No, I don't think that's probably it, but I can certainly understand it. I know maybe people are going to disagree with that, but go back and watch it in slow motion. It's not double coverage. It's really great coverage by Peterson, and he gives Watson an opportunity to go up and get the ball, and he's just not able to go up and get it, which unfortunately has been sort of the MO for Christian Watson so far. So I don't hate it. Again, is there better throws that are available? That's going to be one of the things I'm excited to watch the tape for is did he have better opportunities? But I think that's kind of where the play was designed to go. And it doesn't mean you can throw it if it's not there. But again, I don't hate the decision. I think it's a little bit unlucky and unfortunate that, again, Watson, can't go up and get it. And also just a great play by Patrick Peterson. The final one, probably not the throw, obviously, that you want there. It was short of the end zone, even if a Packer is there to catch it and not a Steeler. It's short of the end zone. You're probably getting tackled short of the end zone. So that was a bit of a head scratcher. You're throwing into no man's land in that situation. In fact, I actually think that's one of the hardest places to throw, because it's not like you can throw like a Hail Mary where it's coming down and giving somebody an opportunity at like a jump ball. Like it's almost like less odds, I feel like, sometimes, because everything is so congested and crammed in there. I thought the Steelers got good, push, and I think Love probably felt that and felt like he just had to get rid of the ball. I don't know. In that situation, you're throwing to basically get intercepted. But as I said at the onset, I do think you're judged by your ability to come up with big plays and big moments. And Jordan fell a little bit shy of that ultimately today. How much blame you want to put on him is sort of up to the eye of the beholder. And like I said, I think it'll be a little bit more fun to look at it from a tape standpoint. And I'll just go back to and say, I do think that this is one that there are going to be plenty of positive takeaways. That's never easy to hear when you have a very winnable game, in my opinion, especially based on how Pittsburgh played, and you come away with a loss, especially off of a really awful call from both, the NFL offices as well as the officials on the field. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm excited to go through the tape on this one. The one thing I will say I thought the defense definitely improved for the most part as the game went along. 23 points in the NFL isn't like an egregious number. It's a bad number to a Pittsburgh Steelers offense that's been struggling. What I look at more from the defensive side of things is, and one of my keys going into the game was, you got to make Kenny Pickett beat you. Like, that's the guy that has to beat you. You cannot let them run up and down the field. And Green Bay in this game allowed 205 rushing yards, 36 attempts, 5.7 yards per carry, going into a game where you knew the one thing that you needed to do defensively was to stop the run. And I wholeheartedly understand that you have some wide receiver matchups in this one that are not super advantageous against Valentine and Nixon. But those guys, for the most part, held up pretty well when challenged. Not perfect, but I think for really playing with two backup corners and a slot corner that's not exactly like a league leading slot corner, like, I think they held up pretty well. And again, the whole name of the game in this one was making Kenny beat you with his arm. You couldn't do that. And so many two-man defensive lines, so many opportunities for Pittsburgh Steelers just to get open lanes and open rushing lanes. And then, of course, some awful tackling by this Packers defense, especially at inopportune times as well. Lots to be frustrated with still from this team. A lot of mistakes, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, the blocked extra point. All of those things are things that are going to continue to be maddening for this young team. But I do think there were signs of progress and hopefully some steps in the right direction. And like I said, I'm looking forward to go through the tape later or actually later today on this one. All right. And no, you cannot, Jay Western. And I don't know if TJ Watt may remind you of Kevin King in the 20 NFC Championship. Love you, Andy. Have a good week. I don't know. I think that's a backhanded love you, Jay Western, if we're going to bring up that. But yeah, I get the point. DeGuara provides what to this team at this point? If you've been following me long enough, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. There's very little. And I know people have tried to defend him in the past and have said, he's doing some of the dirty work and those sort of things. It's not good dirty work. and when you have like special teams plays like that, it's frustrating. He's not a downfield threat. He's not an impact blocker. I totally do not get it in any capacity. There has to be better players that you can find on other teams' practice squad, maybe your own practice squad. Maybe you go with the fullback. I don't know, but I wholeheartedly do not understand it. I don't get it. And to me, he has not played like an NFL caliber player. I did think there were signs earlier in his career at times of what he could potentially become, but it's never come to fruition. And this is year 4. It's now or never. If you're not figuring it out now, you're probably not going to. So I'm with you. I don't know. And it's kind of inexcusable to keep putting a player out on the field that just doesn't bring you any positives and is a poor performer week in and week out. Vex, yes, he's young, but Watson is the complete opposite of a primetime player. I'm so disenfranchised by this organization until we have a new regime. Vex, I think that's a little bit strong overall in the entire organization or regime. We'll see. Like I said, I have seen some signs of progress these past couple weeks. What that amounts to will remain to be seen. This was the easiest game of their 4-game stretch, right? They're going to have Chargers, Lions, and Chiefs in their next 3. This could get a lot uglier and a lot worse. So time will tell. And if they continue to trend in a positive direction and play and show some signs of life and positivity and maybe pick up a win that they're not expected to win in the next few weeks, maybe things change a little bit, but it's going to be really, really tough. And if they do lose their next 3, they will have lost 8 out of 9 games in a 9-game stretch, 1-8. And that one game was basically a gimme with Brett Rippon at quarterback at home and every right to win the game. And the Rams didn't really put up too much of a fight in that one. So that's going to be really, really tough for Matt LaFleur, and how this team responds to that and how they play in their next 3 games are going to be huge. As far as Christian Watson goes, frustrating, very, very frustrating. You're just left wanting, it's one thing if like you're left wanting a little bit more, you're left wanting a lot more with Christian Watson right now. I don't think it's all necessarily on Watson. I think this offense, again, has been a little bit disjointed at times. I think, him starting is having so much of the offseason that he missed, and the starting on, not being able to play and some of the injuries that he's had to go through have not been great for him. But when the ball goes to Christian right now, you don't have a lot of faith that good things are going to happen. He did cap the game last week with a really nice contested catch. I thought he opened the game well. With a couple of nice receptions in this one, but then he had the drop. And then again, you'd like to maybe see a little bit more battle with some of those contested catch situations later in the game. And we just haven't seen the playmaking, right? I think part of that's on Matt LaFleur to get Christian in some situations where he just gets the ball in his hands. Like let's see if Christian can, like last year, end around or reverse for a touchdown, like 60 some yarder. That was something that worked consistently for Christian. Little crossing routes to Christian worked incredibly well last year. In fact, when Jordan played against Philadelphia, it was a little underneath throw that Christian's able to turn upfield and get big yardage on. I think Green Bay needs to be a little bit more creative with the way that they're using Christian, understanding that these deep ball contested catch situations aren't going so hot. So maybe you have to reconfigure and maybe try something a little bit different. Maybe some bubble screens, maybe some end around, some reverses. Heck, line him up in the backfield, hand the ball to him. I don't care. I think there's opportunities and ways that he can still impact this team in a very positive way, but that hasn't been happening. A lot of that goes on Christian. Part of that goes on the offense. Part of that is sometimes on Jordan, but it has to be way, way better. And I think, again, the things that are always the most frustrating are when you set the bar for yourself, right? In the second half of last season, Christian Watson set the bar for what he can be as a player and how impactful that he can be. That should be now your basement as a player. And instead, it has gone in a 180 in the entire opposite direction. And again, I don't think that's all on Christian, but a huge part of it is. And they've got to figure out something, like I said, use him in different ways. He's got to play better. And they've got to figure out a way to unlock his playmaking ability because it has not been on display really at almost any point this season. And like I said, that's been massively frustrating. Watchable offense is better than unwatchable offense. Yes, but it's so interesting how these games can swing and how you can sort of feel about things. You felt good about this offense in the first half. And that was a positive, but they didn't really do much at all in the second half. They did get the drives down the field, and unfortunately they had to go for the touchdown because they were losing. They did go ahead and take the lead in the second half, and of course the defense gives it right back, which is the third time they've done so this season when the offense is taking a lead and then the defense gives it right back on the ensuing drive. So I think there's some real positives here again from the offense. I thought Aaron Jones had a tough day. Again, Christian Watson, tough day. There's some players that are going to want some plays out on the field. AJ Dillon continues to impress over the past month plus. And really, I think these past 2 weeks has played better than what Aaron Jones has played. This was a tough one for Aaron. He had the drop early, and then the play on the last drive. It's asking a lot to ask a player to like have the wherewithal to drop a ball in that situation. In hindsight and with clear vision on it, he should have just dropped the ball. But the more egregious aspect is to then try to make a bunch of moves and cut back to the middle of the field. That wasn't great either. And that wasted a ton of time on that play. But yeah, I do think the offense has been far more watchable overall. You're seeing fewer and fewer like big negative plays up until obviously the interceptions at the end. But yeah, I do think so, but it needed to be better in the second half. It wasn't. And that's a huge reason that they were unable to win that game. One of the biggest themes that we've been talking about all season long has just been complementary football. Even when you get a really big touchdown to cut it to what should be 17-14, you've got a blocked extra point and you sort of lose all of that momentum. As soon as you take the lead in the second half, the defense gives it right back. In the first half, when the offense is playing great, the defense can't do crap. In the second half, when the defense is playing better, the offense can't do crap for a lot of it. Like those are just things where it's frustrating. You had the big return by Nixon in the second half, but again, the special teams in the first half was terrible. You need these three units playing cohesively together. Football that's on the same page, that is complementary. And if it's not, it's going to continue to look very disjointed like this, where there's stretches of the game where you feel good about the defense. There's stretches of the game where you feel good about the offense. There's stretches of the game where you feel good about the special teams. And then there's others where you're ready to pull out your hair on offense. You're wanting to fire everyone on defense. And, special teams just leaves you confounded and being like, what the heck is going on here? You're supposed to have one of the best special teams coaches in the league. How are some of these things happening? And I think sometimes that's like the worst place to be, right? You just end up in no man's land where I kind of mentioned it last year when they went 8-9. It was really hard to point a finger at any one specific person. Brian Gutekunst could say like, hey, I look at all this stuff that I did, but look at look at what everyone else did wrong. And Matt LaFleur could be like, well, here's what I did right, but look at some of the players that were given to me and look at some of the other aspects and look what went wrong over there. And the defensive coordinator can say, hey, there were really good stretches. Like in a 4-game stretch, we only allowed 18.5 points per game or whatever. Like there's things that they can point to and be like, hey, we're doing things okay. But at some point you've got to get to the root cause and figure out, are the issues here due to poor scouting and analyzing talent? Is it due to coaching? Is it the defensive coordinator? Is it and obviously more than one thing can be true, but that's what is going to be so important over the course of these next 8 games in the last half of the season, is to really try to get to the bottom of this and figure out what's the biggest cause, where's the most smoke coming from that you can hopefully put out the fire and start getting, trending in a much, much better direction. And again, I think that's a really hard thing to do when there's so much chaos. Brian Gutekunst said it in his press conference the other week. It's like, it's not just Jordan that's hard to evaluate. It's everything that's hard to evaluate when everything is so, kind of disjointed. So frustrating. Like I said, I thought this was a winnable one, but still nice to see at times some watchable offense, which has been again, a step in the right direction. Our coach is supposed to be a scheme guy. Instead it's go routes. Yeah. There haven't been enough schemed open plays, I don't think, for anyone's liking. And again, defenses are getting better. They're getting smarter. I think if you look around the league, scoring's been down. They're keeping everything in front of them. They're not allowing big completions down the field. So you've kind of got to find a way to generate explosive plays. And every coach is trying to kind of figure that out right now. And unless you've got a Patrick Mahomes, a Tyreek Hill, a big time playmaker that can make things easy for you, offense is hard in the NFL. But I think I agree with you that some things need to be schemed up a little bit better. You've got to find a way to hit some open receivers. I did think there were some plays in this one. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks getting some big completions down the field. Luke Musgrave, 2 big explosives down the field. I did think there were times where Matt LaFleur got very advantageous looks for Jordan to complete big plays down the field, and they did hit on a handful of those. So there is some positives to take away there too. But you see a little bit of, again, the disjointedness all around. I think earlier in the year, what was tough for Matt is the offensive line couldn't block anything. So that makes things a whole hell of a lot tougher as a play caller. But in this one, there were some opportunities out there. They hit on some of them. They didn't hit on the others. And they're going to have to figure out a way to be better against the Chargers at home this upcoming week. All right, Andy, thank you. Guys, I should be better at this, but thank you so much for all these super chats. You guys are super, super kind, and I really appreciate you guys a ton. A-Rock 1, Andy, curious what it would take for you to put the overall blame on the front office strategy, i.e. draft and develop, no A-list free agents, prioritizing homegrown picks, draft capital priority, poor relationship handling, etc. It's in the conversation, A-Rock 1. It's very much in the conversation. The biggest, most egregious thing for me right now is the lack of high-end talent on this team. I think we are seeing some early returns from some of these young players that are going to be, when I say key pieces, I don't necessarily mean like A+ guys, but I mean, when you have to really, when you have to fill out a roster, you have to have a roster full of good players, and you have to have a baseline of young, talented players who can, kind of be starting caliber players. They can't be net negatives. And I think we're starting to see some Jaden Reeds, Dontavian Wickses, Luke Musgraves, Zach Toms, Rashawn Gary's, obviously a lot of these guys start to play at a better level, and that's going to be a net positive moving forward. But I think the big one is your real lack of top end talent, and they need some of these guys, whether it's the Quay Walkers, the Devontae Wyatts, the Christian Watsons, the Romeo Dobbs, the whomever it is. I honestly don't care which names it is, but you need 3, 4, 5 really super talented players. They've had some early draft picks. Rashawn, I think, is very much at least in that conversation as one of those. But you need more than that. And they have not been able to find the top tier, high end talent in some of these drafts that's going to win you ball games and put you over the top. It's great to have, again, that nucleus and that core of players who are solid and can help you win, but it's never enough. And if Jordan and some of these other players can't be, top 5, top 10 players at their respective positions, it just makes it really, really hard to win on a week in and week out basis. You can be competitive like we saw today. You can have chances to win, but you're going to give the other team a lot of chances to win too. And that's how you end up being a 3-6 football team, basically. So I think they have to do a much better job of evaluating not just talent and finding players that can fill out a roster. They need to find A+ big time talent that is going to, be the core guys that are winning you football games and giving you a puncher's chance to go to Super Bowls or at least win playoff games. They don't have those guys on the roster. And I think that's a big cause for concern for me, especially when they've had extra draft capital, some higher draft picks than they've been used to. Lucas Van Ness has not had great early returns. I've talked in the past about draft and develop. I think it's a little bit dead, and I think they need to start going in a little bit of a different direction. Spoiler alert, if you have a GM and a head coach that are starting to feel and be on the hot seat, draft and develop goes out the window real fast. And all of a sudden, those guys start acquiring players that can help them win right now, because they know if they don't, they're going to be out of town. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well. But definitely in the conversation. Carl Van Beckham, no one on the beat asked Matt about the end of the first half. That's unacceptable. At end of first half, field goal, and we're kicking a field goal for the win. I'd have to go back and honestly look, Carl. So was it that they did not kick a field goal at the end of the first half? Oh, they didn't. They just kind of ran out the clock, right? If I remember correctly. Now I'm curious. So I'm going to the play-by-play here. I think if I remember correctly, they just kind of ran out the clock at the end. All right, so they get the ball with 1:20 left on their own 15. I think the issue here, Carl, is on the very first play, they were going for it. Like they threw on the very first play, shotgun play, Jordan Love, Jaden Reed for -5 yards. So you lose 5 yards on the first play, and it's 2nd and 15. And at that point, I'd have to look back at the timeout situation. I know Pittsburgh had one, if I remember correctly, but you're back on your own 15. The odds that something bad happens when you are 2nd and 15 from your own 10-yard line, with under a minute remaining, the odds that the Steelers score are much greater than that the Packers score in that situation. So I think that's why nobody asked them about it. I just don't they clearly wanted to try to get something going to that half when it's, again, when they throw on first down, 1:20 left, 1st and 10. But as soon as you have a -5 yard play and you're behind the sticks, like I said, there's a much greater chance that something bad happens and that they actually get points rather than you get points. So I think that's the situation. Unless you're thinking of something else that I'm forgetting about, feel free to. Yeah. So yeah. All right. We're on the same page there. But yeah, I don't think they should. I honestly don't think they should have done anything different after the 5-yard loss on that play. Steely Phil 37. Thanks so much. Rundy was brutal to watch. Definite regression. Not sure how much Kenny's injury played a factor into that. He looked pretty good in the plays that I saw. That's another one that I'm going to be interested to watch, but I think the tackling was the really discouraging thing. I mean, how many broken tackles that went for 10, 20 plus yard runs, not just in the run game, but in the passing game as well. This has not been a good tackling team for a very long time now. I thought over the past couple of weeks, there were some signs of progress. As Marcus Eversole said, if you didn't take the last couple of weeks with a grain of salt, that's probably on you, which I agree with. I do think, as we've said, Alexander Mattison, Cam Akers, Henderson for the Rams, all those guys, Royce Freeman? None of those guys are big time running backs. You had some bad running backs that you were facing the past 2 weeks, but as I tweeted back to Marcus, I'm like, to be fair, Green Bay's made a living out of giving up big games to no-name running backs. So I did think it was a lot more positive in the past 2 weeks against Minnesota and against the Rams, bad run offenses as they may be, but a massive regression here against the Steelers team that just ran it right down Green Bay's throat. And as I said at the very beginning of this, the inexcusable part is you knew going into this game that that's what the Steelers were going to want to do on offense. You knew that you had to make Kenny Pickett beat you. And Kenny Pickett in this game, in a 23-point game for the Steelers offense, in a game, Kenny Pickett in this one is 14 of 23 for 126 yards. 14 of 23 for 126 yards. He had no right, winning that game. And they had no right from a passing standpoint winning that game. But because you didn't play the run well at all, and here's the thing. I understand that you do not want to give up big plays in the NFL. You cannot play afraid. You cannot play scared football. The moment you start playing scared football, you're dead. You are dead on arrival. You have no chance. Green Bay plays scared football. We can't give up a big play. F that. Give up a big play. I don't care. Play aggressive, attacking, physical football. And if they get a big play, tip your cap. Because if you play this brand of football, it's again, you're going to end up with a lot of 3rd and 14s that go for 13 yards and then they pick up the 1 yard on the QB sneak or however they want to get it, or the toss outside that goes for 15 yards every single time. If you play, but like, oh, we can't let Deontay Johnson beat us down the field. Oh my God. Come on. Challenge your corners. Let them play football. They're paid too. And if Deontay Johnson beats you, then adjust if you need to adjust. But you cannot keep playing the same brand of football. And the biggest thing I said, I forget what episode I said it on last week. If you're Joe Barry, if things don't change, you're probably going to be the fall guy at some point here. You're going to lose your job. So go down swinging. You've seen the Joe Barry defense for 2.5 years. You know this passive, playing off, not being physical, all of it is not going to get you anywhere. So just change it. And go like, and you can tell it in times in previous press conferences, Matt's been frustrated to the point of saying like, yeah, if they're running the ball on us, we need to, we know we don't want to give up big plays, but we got to add an extra guy in the box or add an extra guy in the line. Then do it. Demand it. Because you can't allow 200 yards on the ground and 5.whatever yards per carry, 5.7 yards per carry. That's actually probably worse had it not been for a couple Pickett plays. But my goodness, like you have to change the way that you are playing defense in a game like that. And again, and when you're getting beat early and you're just getting gashed in the running game, to not adjust to it, it's dumb. It's frustrating. And it again, very, very, very frustrating. All right. How was the lateral not called a scoop and score for us? He threw that one on the 10, ball ended at the 9, clear as day. Don't know. Do not know. It's very clearly, in my opinion, like a lateral, like literally goes laterally at best, behind at worst. And I think it's probably closer to going behind. How you do play stands in that situation, I have zero idea. How you can stand and say, oh yeah, definitely play stands. Totally get it. Don't understand. Kudos to Charles Davis for saying F that. Like that was clearly a backwards pass. What you hate in that situation is you have to let that play out. And because here's the thing, right? They've instituted now that if there's a clear and obvious error, NFL can voice down and say, oh, after quick review, this has been overturned and it's actually an incomplete pass. They have that quick change that can come from the NFL offices now. So let that play out in real time. Let it go to a fumble and a clear recovery and a touchdown for Green Bay, which is what it was. Because even if Green Bay did win the challenge, and even if they did get the fumble, they don't get the touchdown on the play. They would get the clear and obvious recovery, I think. But that I don't trust the NFL to get right either. They could be like, oh, it took too long because the guy like bobbled the ball for a second and the whistles kept blowing. I don't know. That stuff is infuriating because the NFL has to get that stuff right. And they're literally taught to let the play out. And even here's the other thing. Even if you believe that it's an incomplete pass, you can let the play out and then signal incomplete after the play has completely unfolded. Green Bay gets the touchdown. You can signal incomplete. So the fact here that they effed up the process of the play, of letting it play out, even if you want to call it incomplete, let it play out. The fact that they got the call wrong, knowing that it was not or thinking that it was not a lateral when it was. And then the fact that the replay still got it wrong, we're just hitting 1,000 at that point. And I don't know. I have no idea. To me, it felt like there was, when they said the play stands, it felt like they thought there was just too much going on the play. Just keep it as is. It's close enough to keep as is what they thought on the play, because you've got a play that is sort of sideways-ish, slightly backwards, very thin line, or maybe a thin line. I don't even know. But that then is blown dead. And then you've got a sort of recovery that was a little bit, again, disjointed there. And it felt like they said, F it, we're just going to have it stand, when that's unacceptable. But that's what it felt like. Because in no world can you look at that and just be like, the other thing I'll say really quick here, stands is a cop-out when you have all of the video evidence that you need. There is no video evidence that is lacking on that play. You have everything in front of you to be able to make that call. You can see it in slow motion. You can slow it down. You can have a computer generated line go across the screen if you need to do it. Whatever you need to do, you have everything at your disposal to make that call. So it stands. Yeah, cool, Damien. We can get you out of here. Oh, not what I wanted to do. Hold on. There we go. All right. That's gone. But anyway, you can I forget what I was saying, but yeah, long story short, they effed every aspect of that up, and that is completely frustrating. All right, what else we got? All right, disappointed in 33 today. Vet needs to get out of bounds in that last drive. Like I said, it's tough to ask him to drop the pass just because you're not like it goes out of every instinct in your body to purposefully drop a pass, but that's one where you probably just need to drop the pass. And then even if you don't drop the pass, you've got to find a way to get out of bounds. Tough day for Jones in this one. 13 carries, 35 yards, 2.7 yard average on the ground, while Dillon got 9 for 70 on a 7.8 yard average. And then Jones, 4 catches, 19 yards on 6 targets. So 4.8 average through the air. Again, 1 big drop, and then 2.7 on the ground, long of 9 on the ground, long of 12 in the air. So tough day for Aaron. He'll bounce back. He always does, but definitely not his A+ game. That's for sure. All right. What else we got? What else we want to talk about in that fun game? Yeah, I agree. Oh, okay. I just saw your first part, but yes, it is hard to ask him to drop the pass. All right, Matthias, felt Love played well today, but I wonder what is the expectation level for quarterbacks for this organization. Wonder if they would settle for a top 15 quarterback. Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? You don't have to look too far other than the team that they played today. And I'm not making any argument that the Steelers are like this really good football team or anything like that. In my opinion, Jordan is better than Kenny Pickett, and the Steelers are 6-3 with Kenny Pickett. And I'm not saying that that's a recipe for success. The Steelers are not going to be competing for a Super Bowl this year, but you can be a much better team with a Kenny Pickett at quarterback at 6-3 if you've got the right pieces around you and you play complementary football and you find ways to win games. Green Bay's had opportunities and could easily be 6-3 on this season if they can go out and find that final drive. If they can hang in on defense once your offense gets a lead, if they can play a little bit better in a couple key situations, if a lateral is called a lateral, a couple things go a couple different ways. It's probably a 6-3 team too. But yeah, I think the Steelers are 6-3 with a worse quarterback than Green Bay has. Again, how far you want to go with that. And again, I think you pretty much need to have a top 10 quarterback to be able to have a puncher's chance at a Super Bowl. I don't think anyone's arguing that Jordan is a top 10 quarterback or anywhere near that right now. So he has to improve, and Green Bay's going to have some decisions to make. But I do think there are some positive signs from Jordan. I thought he was feeling it early. He got into a rhythm much earlier in this game. Still some throws where he needs to step into a little bit better, just get better with his footwork and fundamentals from a throwing standpoint. But yeah, I think there's positive signs there. And really the rest of the season is about evaluating Jordan. Spoiler alert, this team's not going 6-1 the remainder of the way to get to 9-7 and have a chance. There's no run the table coming this year for Green Bay. They could run the table in the last 5 if they start actually playing good football, just because the strength of schedule in the last 5 isn't that hard. But these next 3 going to be brutally tough, and probably a decent chance that they could go 0-3 in those next 3. I did not see this. I don't know if anyone saw Wicks getting subbed off the field in the final play, but man, got to have one of your best separators out there, especially with how he had played the rest of the game. That is a weird one. My assumption is Musgrave was out there with his size. Watson was out there with his size. Dobbs was out there, would be my guess. Did they go Jaden Reed on the other one? That's kind of interesting, I guess. But yeah, you kind of want your a little bit of your bigger players and your guys who can find some separation in some capacity. I definitely would have wanted Dontavian Wicks out there as well. Thought he's been a real nice positive for Green Bay. And hopefully that can be something that Green Bay can continue to lean on moving forward, is the play of Dontavian Wicks. If the refs aren't idiots and Campbell catches that pick, they literally win the game with no concern. This is just something that happens. We can't blame Jordan today. Yeah, I mostly agree with that. Couple of super chats above. All right, thank you. Sorry if I missed those. I think I got all of them. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Preston, considering Goody's recent draft history, do you think that this upcoming draft class will have to be a home run or he'll be forced out? It's tough. It's tough to tell with Goody. My guess is he's probably got a couple years right now. I think he's going to get 2024, and I'm not sure they would bring in a new GM for 2025 with Mark in his last year. I don't know if he's going to want to make that decision, and is like that's his final decision as a GM is firing Brian. So we'll see. Anyone is fireable if things don't go right. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens with this team if they do lose their next three, which is the writing's right there for them to be able to, or to do so, not be able to do so, but probably to do so. And if they go 1-8 in a 9-game stretch and then are sitting at 3-9 on the season with 3 wins against Chicago week 1, a sort of improbable comeback against the Saints in week 3 with a backup quarterback in the second half, and then a win against Brett Rippon and the Rams at home. I'm not sure how much confidence that's going to instill. Now, if they play competitive football against the Chiefs and the Lions and the Chargers and maybe come up a field goal short and there's another fumble that goes the wrong way or a bad call that changes the outcome or something, all right, if they continue to show signs of progress and be competitive and they're contested competitive games, then that changes things maybe a little bit. If the big thing that you want to look for, and I'm more talking about from a coaching standpoint right now, but the big thing you want to look for is there ever any signs that this team quits? There has not been any sign of that so far. You string together enough losses, though, and you can start seeing some signs of those things potentially. That would be a big indicator of like, okay, there's a bigger issue here. I haven't seen that. This team battled all throughout this game on the road, tough environment, had every right to win. But as far as Goody, like I said, I think he probably gets a couple more years, but I don't know. It's always tough and difficult to figure out too what the powers that be are thinking and what things have gone wrong. It's also an interesting situation where you go with Matt and Brian, you go 13 wins in, 3 consecutive seasons. You then have the 8-9 season, which is not like a brutal season by NFL standards, but was because of the expectations that they had. Missed the playoffs on the last game. And then you've got probably what's going to amount to a 5-12 season, something like that, maybe 6-11, maybe 4-13. But how they evaluate the whole, the 5-year or, the 5-year whole for 3 13-win seasons, an 8-win season, and then a 3 or 4 or 5-win season, whatever it ends up being, that's going to be what I think is really interesting. We just don't know what they're feeling. But my guess is, if I had to say right now, my guess is that there will be probably some major change up within Matt LaFleur's staff this upcoming offseason, probably defensive coordinator and maybe a couple other things, maybe offensive coordinator, maybe just goes out and gets 2 different coordinators and changes up a bunch of the coaching staff and says, all right, we need some changes, which probably saves Matt's job for a year. If things don't go well next year, then that would be Matt's job. And then if things don't go the year after that, then it's probably Brian's job. But I don't know. It's tough to say, but I think everyone is probably a little bit more on notice than maybe they have been in the past. What happened with that flag at the end of the game? Is there a chance one of our players is penalized with a game off? It didn't sound like it was it was an unnecessary roughness, but I think they even said like we have no way of like doing anything because the game is over. So I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to cause a suspension unless there was something that I missed. It was obviously post game. It was on Green Bay. So the game is just over. And I think, especially with a little bit of the tensions running high at the end of the game, I think everyone just realized, all right, let's just get everyone out of here and clear everything off. But I don't think there's going to be any situation where anyone loses any or is suspended for next game or anything. Wasn't it? I don't remember who it was either. It might've been John Runyon Jr. I don't remember, but it's not like that's going to change things too much anyway, if he is out. Is the interception Watson's fault? The ball looked like it was perfectly thrown to the defender. On the last one, they didn't even show a replay of it. I have not seen the replay of the last one yet. The first one, I don't think is Watson's fault, but you'd like a little bit more battle and contest on that. So at minimum, it's not intercepted, is what I would say. Yeah, I get it, Mr. Lewis. I know there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a lot of extreme, not extreme, but like there's going to be a lot of differing opinions. I'll put it that way on what should happen with Matt, the staff, Brian, everyone, if this continues to go in a bad direction, which, like I said, it probably is going to based on the next 3 games. So I don't, again, my big thing I'll say is it's always hard to tell what the front office and the powers that be are thinking in those situations. Then maybe they've already had enough and they're like, we think this is trending in a terrible direction. And like all of a sudden they do something crazy and surprising tomorrow. Do I think that's going to be the case? No. Is that how Green Bay operates? No, it's not. They're usually very cautious and take their time on all of these things. Maybe there's a chance that they knew this season was going to happen based on all the dead money for Aaron Rodgers, based on like the youngest offense or the youngest team in the NFL, an offense that's not spending any money. There's a chance that they just like kind of put this one as like, hey, just hang with them this year. And then we need to see real signs of progress in 2024. I don't know. But I know there's going to be a lot of opinions on who should be gone and who should stay. Yeah. So have at them because it's a real discussion point at this point. Hard Knocks is not only a real possibility, it is about as lead pipe of a lock as you could possibly get unless they move on from Matt LaFleur as head coach. If Matt LaFleur is not back, then they cannot force Green Bay to do Hard Knocks. If Matt LaFleur is back, they absolutely can force Green Bay to do Hard Knocks. And like I said, would be about as lead pipe of a lock as you could possibly have if Green Bay is eligible, which barring a crazy playoff run the table stretch the remainder of the season, or barring that they fire Matt LaFleur, you can bet HBO, Hard Knocks, Green Bay 2024. Enjoy it, everyone. Could you go back to my third chat? Did I mix one, Vex? I'm sorry. I did miss a couple of these. I'll make sure I go through all of these. Sorry about that, Vex. Trading players for picks sucks when you can't draft A+ talent, as you said. Appreciate that, Vex. And sorry that I missed that earlier. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? You got a ton of extra draft capital from trading Devontae Adams. You used a big chunk of that to go up and get Christian Watson in Quay Walker. It was the first round pick. You traded Adams, very talented player. Now you saved a bunch of money too. So you were able to re-sign some players and do some things with that money, but you got to be able to utilize those premium picks when you get them. Quay Walker, Christian Watson, TBDs, 2 players that I think a lot of people thought could be big time playmakers and maybe even A+ level talent that so far this year have not played that way. I think Quay has taken a step from where he was last year, but he's taken a step from bad to average at times, sometimes okay to good, wherever you want to put him. Christian's taken a step back from where he was last year. So yeah, you definitely need to be able to take those premium, picks and turn them into something when you're going to get them. You move up 2 spots in the draft. You draft Lucas Van Ness over Broderick Jones, who had a great day, it looked like today, for Pittsburgh starting at right tackle. LVN, not much of an impact, at least as far as I could tell. You got to be able to get some of those things right. And it's not always going to be perfect. And this looks like a pretty fun draft class overall that I think has the ability to continue to progress over time. But yeah, if you're missing on your draft picks, whether you got extra picks or not, that is going to be an indictment of your scouting staff and of you as a GM. And you got to find a way to make it better. We'll see what they do, especially this next year when they've got some extra picks. Again, 3 picks in the top 50, more likely. I'm just making sure we got Jay Westerns. We got Tyler's. All right, we got Vex's first one. We got Steely Phil's. We got Vex's. There we go. See, Joe's home theater. My apologies for missing yours as well. Deep ball looked better. Less air under the ball helped. Yeah, I thought the deep ball looked much better, and he was far more accurate down the field today. Sign of progress. Like those are the incremental steps that you want to see this team make. And I think if that can continue, like that was a big piece that was missing for Jordan, was his deep ball accuracy. If his deep ball accuracy looks like this moving forward, hey, you can absolutely live with that. And that's going to be a potential plus moving forward for Jordan. So whatever adjustment that they made, whatever adjustment he made, whether he was just going to rip it and not overthink it, I don't know. But it was definitely a step in the right direction. And that is a real positive sign and some real progress this week. All right. Got that one. Got that one. Sorry, guys, just making sure I got all these super chats. Preston do we get? Yeah, okay, we did get that one. All right. Got that one. All right. I think this is the last one. I don't know anyone who would want to come in for a defensive coordinator when you know your coach is on the hot seat. That's going to be an issue. Justice and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think it was. First of all, let's say that they do go that route and Matt's back, but he's a bit on the hot seat. And Matt decides, hey, we're going to go in a different direction at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Those are the big changes that we're going to make. If you make those changes, trying to get outside coordinator help to come in Green Bay and help you is going to be very, very tough. The reason being is they know that Matt's on the hot seat and that if Matt gets fired in the next year, they're going to move to Green Bay for a year and then they're going to get uprooted and have to move out of town immediately again, which is not what you're looking for. And then the other thing is, that, Matt's not had like success and that if all of a sudden like they do okay, like maybe Matt's just going to let you go because this will be, multiple offensive coordinators. Now, obviously one of it was because Hackett got the head coaching job, but multiple special teams coordinators, multiple defensive coordinators. So, that's never a great sign either. So I think it would be tough for them to lure top end talent away to Green Bay in that situation. If you wanted a whole new coordinator staff and everything, you're probably just better off going and getting a new head coach and having him bring in new guys, knowing that it's going to start a new regime. But I think those are all things that Green Bay is going to have to consider with how they want to go about this offseason. And like I said, hopefully they just show a ton of signs of progress over the next eight games that are left and everyone looks great. Like that would be way better. But if it doesn't, and if it does continue to get worse and they continue to lose games, all of these things are going to be fair conversations and totally up for grabs moving forward. All right. What else we got? Yeah, yeah, that's probably fair. Trev, Love has, like I said, Love has definitely been better than Pickett. And again, the Steelers are 6-3 with a worse quarterback. Matthias, probably not. As I've mentioned to people before, it's really, really hard to do a ton of draft stuff in season with me covering the Packers 365 and doing new episodes on the Packers every single day. But what I'm really excited about, obviously, with doing this job full time now in season, the Packers take up everything. But now, as soon as the season's done, I'm going to be able to jump into college tape immediately, which I am super, super pumped about. And should be better draft content than ever coming up this next year, which is going to be important knowing where they could be selecting in this year's draft. Peter, they're not taking a kicker in the first round, maybe the second. Do I think the left-handed spiral from Wicks threw Jones off, pun intended, or just run before catching? He's just got to catch the ball. He's got to catch the ball and he's got to make a play there. It was blocked up pretty well. And it was a cool play design. I don't think that it picks up the first down there, but Jones just needs to catch it and you got to figure it out. And obviously you're giving a playmaker an opportunity with a couple blockers to go make a play. Would have been fun to see what would have happened if it was complete, but he's just got to catch the ball. Predictions for next Sunday. I want to look at something quick here. So the Chargers losing to what, 24-10 right now, huh? The Chargers are like that weird team where like they'll beat anyone and they'll lose to anyone. So you never know what you're going to get out of them. Noon game for a West Coast team, home game for Green Bay. It's going to be a 3-6 team versus a 4-5 team. I don't know. If Green Bay can play closer to what they played today, I think Green Bay's got a real chance in that one. But Green Bay can lose any game too. I don't know. I have a weird, somewhat confidence. I don't know why at this moment about Green Bay playing the Chargers next week. Maybe it's just because I think they aren't going to lose 4 in a row and maybe they actually pick up a win somehow. And if it is, it's probably not against the Chiefs or the Lions. So it'd probably have to be against the Chargers. Like I said, the Chargers aren't playing very good football either. And literally can lose to anyone at any time. But I don't know. I mean, the odds are the Chargers probably win. They'll probably be favored, but I don't know. I think it is a winnable game in Green Bay. West Coast team traveling to Green Bay at a noon game. We'll see. Gary says last second loss. Jano saw John on the sideline shake his head after a few plays. He seems really disappointed in the team. Well, the team would be doing better if he played better in the couple games that he was in too. So I'm sure he's frustrated. I'm sure a lot of people are frustrated. Everyone needs to do their 111th and be just a little bit better. And this team would probably be closer to the Steelers at 6-3 or 5-4. But fortunately, that has not been the case so far. Oh, crowd is the gold package. Uh-oh. Do you believe that Joe Barry is gone at the end of the year or now? I'm not exactly sure because your question's a little bit disjointed there, Kevin or Kevion, but I don't think Barry gets the axe in the season right now. And again, the really hard part of this is if you look at the scores, right? And I know people like to think that I'm defending Barry. I'm not a Joe Barry guy. I don't want to carry that banner. If you look at the scores on a team where the offense has not helped them out at all, like they allow 17 to the Raiders, 19 to the Broncos, 24 to the Vikings, 3 to the Rams, 23 to the Steelers. I think if you even go back, obviously they allow 34 to the Lions. But even if you go back to last year, there's not many like big time point production games that Joe Barry has allowed going back for like almost like a year now. So again, I'm not defending it. I'm not saying he should not stay, but it just gets really hard when your offense is played so poorly. It's not like your special team's doing you a ton of favors. You're sort of behind the 8 ball and you're not playing terrible defense. I mean, guys, like the freaking Broncos gave up 70 in a game and they didn't fire their coordinator. So I don't know. I would be surprised if anything got done in season, but I definitely think if things stay the same and they continue to lose games, there's going to have to be some shakeup. And it would just seem that at some point you probably need to do that at defensive coordinator, especially because I think the fan base will lose their mind if you just keep everything the same. I don't think that's a real possibility. If this team goes 5-12 and everyone's back next year and it's the same coaching staff and everything, like I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't think it's going to happen in season, but probably after the season would be my guess. Miranda, I'd have to that's another one that I'm looking forward to. He would be one that I would put in the not good category of the handful of players that didn't look good on first glance. Obviously, the screenplay should have been a touchdown. Runyon just needs to get out and make that block, and he doesn't. It's that is the perfect play call for that situation. You've got everything you want. When Matt LaFleur and Adam Stenavich have said, like, there are times where it's the perfect play call and we're getting the bare minimum out of it. That is the exact example. That screenplay against a blitz. They completely bought it, hook, line, and sinker. You've got three blockers out for like one linebacker, and Runyon can't make the block on the linebacker. And what should have been a touchdown is like a 0-yard gain or at least a very minimal gain. Those are the things that are so infuriating to watch. And I've said John Runyon Jr. easily my lowest graded player on the year so far. I would have went with Sean Ryan today. I didn't expect them to. I expected them wholeheartedly to go with John Runyon Jr. But I swear to God, if we get John Runyon Jr. playing the best football of his career statement this week, you might see me break bad. That might break me in totality. So hopefully that's not the case this week. Chris, there's plenty of time for that to come. I will get to some Thanksgiving tweets and hot takes before Thanksgiving gets here. I promise. I'm Dunyan with Ryan. Is Dunyan a new way for Charles Davis to pronounce Dontavian, which I think he threw out like 3 different pronunciations. I love Charles Davis, by the way. I think he does a great job, but Dontavian was not his forte today. But yeah, I understand. Like I said, I would have went with Sean Ryan this week. Green Bay did not. And we'll see if they make any changes moving forward. Andy, what is going on with the special teams? Is this unit cursed? I will say I did think they bounced back a little bit. They obviously had the big return from Keyshawn Nixon, played a little bit better in the second half. But, you just can't have blocked kicks. Like, that cannot happen. I gave Rich Bisaccia a little bit of forgiveness last year because it's really hard to fix a systemic issue that's been a problem for 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever it's been, and playing horrible special teams. It's hard to fix that in one season. But I think we're all hoping to see a little bit more progress in year 2 with Bisaccia. I don't think that's necessarily been the case. And it's really frustrating because they've got players on this team that are specific special teams players. It's not like they're lacking for that. I do think when you've got to play guys like Corey Ballantyne, who's like a core special teams guy, And, some of those sort of players, Keyshawn Nixon, Rudy Ford, are your starters. Like in an ideal world, like those are three of your core special teams players that just aren't playing as much because they're core players on defense, which makes it a little bit more tough, but it has to be better all the way around, Arnaldo, and seeing some of the poor special teams in this game definitely leaves you scratching your head and just wondering how the heck some of these things can still happen. Jano, gonna need to draft O-line for sure. Yeah, big time. I mean, for multiple reasons, right? First of all, the O-line's not good enough. Second of all, Yash, Runyon, and Yash and Runyon are free agents. You don't know what's going to happen with Bakhtiari, whether he can even play or if he retires or if he's gone or whatever the case. Like, it's hard to imagine Bakhtiari is back and just good to go next year. I don't think there's very many scenarios in the multiverse that play out that way. So you've got, as of right now, if you don't do anything, you've got Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Jenkins at left guard, Myers at center, Ryan at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. So basically what you're doing now, except Ryan instead of Runyon. You definitely are lacking depth in that situation, but you're looking for upgrades, no question about it. And you just need a few more guys to be able to compete for some of those spots. And hope, like center, I hope to God, regardless of whether they're saying he's playing the best of his career, that they're not just sitting satisfied with Josh Myers. I hope that to God they don't just give a contract to John Runyon and bring him back as a starter. Like, there needs to be some changeover in that group. It needs to be better. And yeah, I do think they're going to draft probably multiple offensive linemen in next year's draft. Steely Phil, thanks again for the super chat. What's frustrating for me is that I feel the team should have been at this point a few weeks ago into the season, would be feeling much better now. Yeah, I think that's totally fair too. At least it's happening in some way that you're seeing more competitive football, which is great. I like I said last week's game, and really even this week's game, if you were to sort of combine Rams and Steelers, just take the opponent away. This brand of football over the past 2 weeks is much more what I expected kind of out of Green Bay. Again, a lot more competitive, 500 football, going to lose some tough, close games, going to win some games against some bad teams. And that's probably just who you are as a team. But I wanted more competitive football. I think we've seen that this week and last week. But it's still obviously not good enough, needs to get better, and they need to continue to trend in the right direction. I mean, yeah, Kraft has been playing more, and to be fair, it's not like Kraft is going out and just like tearing it up either. But I don't care who, honestly, because there's plays too where you've got Musgrave and Kraft in, and then you've got DeGuara in the backfield. Like, if you want DeGuara to be a fullback, just go out and get a fullback. They're not hard to, like, you can find free agent fullbacks that can just block better, that are better blocking players than Josiah DeGuara. Like, let me ask you that. What's the job description for Josiah DeGuara? What has been his job description? His job description has been basically a fullback job description. You're not using him as a tight end, right? They're not using him in any sort of way as a traditional tight end. And when he is, he's not a great run blocker. He's not a great pass blocker, and he's not a great pass catcher. Like, he's not doing anything after the catch. He's not doing anything dynamic. So he's not fulfilling the tight end duties. All right. But his primary has been fullback or H-back, whatever you want to call it. All right. So what's that job description in Green Bay? It is blocking. It's run blocking. It's going out and being physical with a linebacker, hopefully knocking them off their feet and opening up a hole for your running back. That's not Josiah DeGuara either. He's kind of more of a get in the way blocker. He's not a guy that's going to deplete a linebacker or push him backwards. He's lucky if he can seal the block and kind of get in the way like that. And that's not, so are you keeping a undersized fullback so that you have the ability to once in a while fake and have the fullback go up and maybe hit a seam ball that you've never, I don't think ever hit once with Josiah DeGuara, that you can throw it to him out of the backfield? That I can't remember the last time that they've really done that in like a fullback capacity. If your A1 job description is that you want that guy to be a lead blocker and a true fullback, go out and get a lead blocker and a true fullback. Don't make an undersized H-back / tight end that isn't good at it. Keep doing that. Like, you're just asking for it not to work out. So DeGuara, not really great on special teams, as we saw today. Not a great run blocker, not a great pass catcher, not dynamic in the passing game. Like, then just go out and get somebody that can do the main essential job better, and go get a real fullback who can actually block. because that would be much more helpful than what Josiah DeGuara has given you. Why did they stick with players too long? Example, Amari Rodgers, DeGuara, and they will likely give a new contract to Myers. So with Amari, to be fair, he's gone in his second year as a third-round pick. They actually moved on from him fairly quick. Now, they did not move on from him as like a returner quickly enough or like getting snaps on the field. But if you would have told me that like they kept him longer as like a number 6 player just to see if he pops or develops at some point, I wouldn't have been shocked by that. But to be fair, they got rid of him in his second year. For a third-round pick, that's pretty aggressive to move on that quickly from a player. So that part of it, they got right. They just played him far too much in that first year and a half. And that was the issue. Josh Myers, based on what they're saying, yeah, they probably do give him a new contract, which is not ideal. And then DeGuara, I guess I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. He's still on the practice squad. Last I checked, and that's, like I said, just bring up Pearson. I want to double check that. I was going to check it earlier, but I'm almost positive he's still on the practice squad. Yep. Good old number 44, fullback, 6'2", 249. Who would you rather have? All right, and I'll ask you guys this in the chat. Who would you rather have as your pure fullback? Your 6'2", 249 actual fullback who has done this job and had this job description as a fullback for a while, or your 6'2", 238-yard H-back / tight end who has not been doing this and isn't good at run blocking? This should not be hard. Just bring up Henry Pearson. You're not going to lose anything. Like, what are you possibly losing if you release Josiah DeGuara? And again, I'm never rooting for somebody to lose their job. My ideal would be that he gets one more chance next week and becomes the best damn H-back in all of football. I would much prefer that. But if what are you afraid if you cut him? Like, what are you possibly losing at this point? That or in probably some cases actually do better. I don't know. All right, Arnaldo, got to ask about the wide receiver core. Do you feel 10 connects better with 11, 13, and 87? Did we miss a chance to trade for John since 9 is underperforming? Put on the GM cap. First of all, I'm not 100% sold on the they asked for Christian Watson. Knowing the Colts, they probably asked for Christian Watson and like a second-round pick for Jonathan Taylor or something crazy too. So as far as I know, we do not have reporting that it was a straight-up Christian Watson for Jonathan Taylor trade. The second thing is that a lot of times hindsight is very beneficial. And at the time when we even heard that Jim Irsay was asking for, and that front office was asking for Christian Watson straight up, even if it was straight up for Jonathan Taylor, pretty much everyone at the time was like, yeah, there's no way you're not giving up Christian Watson, because he legitimately looked like a potential superstar number 1 wide receiver in the second half of last year. And the last thing you want to do is move that player. He goes to the Indianapolis Colts, tears it up as wide receiver number 1, and you get even if Taylor's great, you never want to trade a wide receiver for a running back. The wide receiver has so much more value in the NFL. So again, at the time, with the benefit of hindsight, if it was a straight up trade, you can certainly make the argument right now. At the time, I think it seemed insane, and I don't know that anyone would have done that deal if they were in Green Bay's shoes. I do feel like 10 has gained a bit more of a rhythm and a timing with Wicks and Reed and Dobbs quicker, and it just hasn't come naturally for Love and Watson yet. Why that is and how they can fix it, your guess is as good as mine. But they got to figure it out, because Watson's far too talented. And like if you guys weren't here earlier, one of the things I said is like a lot of this is on Christian and just needing to play better. But Green Bay needs to find different ways to use him than just deep down the field, which is obviously not working at the moment. He's not separating with ease, and he's not making contested catches. If you're not doing either of those things, it's going to be difficult to make big plays down the field. And in fact, you're seeing, I think Domovsky tweeted out 5 of Jordan Love's interceptions so far this year have been targeting Christian Watson, including both today. So yeah, they got to figure out a way to utilize him in better ways, get him on some really, really easy ones, crossers, screens, hand the ball to him in the backfield. I don't care at this point. They just got to figure out a way to get him the ball and let him be a little bit more dynamic, because again, just throwing the ball deep down the field has not been not been successful for them. Donald, you are the absolute best. Thank you so much for doing that. Really, really, really appreciate it. All right, and I'll follow up by answering your question here. Think of the assistant coaches Jim Harbaugh would bring. That alone would be enough to give him full power and make him the highest coach in the league. For some reason, I would be very, very shocked if Jim Harbaugh ends up the coach in Green Bay for a variety of reasons. That match just doesn't seem real to me. Like they would go out. Harbaugh has his own unique personality and style and everything. Plus, there's been a little, not a little bit, obviously some controversy in Michigan with Harbaugh. I don't see Green Bay taking that on. That's just not their front office style. I'd be pretty shocked, especially in Murphy's final years, if that was like his final decision was to bring on Harbaugh and probably give him a ton of control too. I just don't see that happening. Plus, he's former Bears quarterback. Can't do that. All right, I'm going to have to probably get going here pretty quick, guys. I am starting to lose my voice and need something to drink. Any other questions before we get out of here? All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for me. I will, of course, be back here bright and early tomorrow with a full post-game show on YouTube, so you can check that out. YouTube members get that first, so that'll be up later tonight. If you are a YouTube Pack-A-Day podcast member, if you've not checked out memberships yet, make sure to do so. Appreciate all of you who joined the chat, all of you who did the super chats today. You guys are beyond amazing. I appreciate you a ton. I do think there's some positives to take away from this one. Looking forward to going through the tape, watching it a little bit more closely, and I'll go through all those positives in tomorrow's post-game show and again, Monday's YouTube show. And after I've had the opportunity to digest everything a little bit more and rewatch the game. So keep an eye out for that. I'll see you guys soon. Appreciate all the support. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.